Can you not sit so close? It's disgusting. The words rang out before Marcus Ellis even exhaled. It was 5:47 p.m., the bus packed tight in. You think someone like you can afford this place? The waiter didn't bother whispering. His voice echoed through the marble-floored dining room of Le Grand Verre, the most exclusive restaurant in Charleston. All eyes turned. Malik Thompson stood motionless, one hand on his daughter's shoulder. She was 9, clutching a coloring book, her curls bouncing as she looked up in confusion. I didn't ask for trouble, Malik said calmly. Just a table. The manager approached, half smiling. Sir, this is a private venue. We reserve the right to refuse service. But they have open tables, the girl whispered. They just sat a group behind us. Malik didn't answer. He gently turned his daughter toward the door. As they walked out, slow, composed, the waiter scoffed, maybe next time wear something other than clearance rack cotton. Nobody laughed. But nobody stopped it either. And in that silence, his daughter tightened her grip on his hand. They had no idea who he was. The next morning, inside the corporate tower of Braxton Hospitality Group, the boardroom lights flicked on. Executives adjusted their ties, unaware a storm had already entered. Malik Thompson stepped in, dark navy suit, Windsor knot, polished shoes. His face was unreadable. Who's that? Whispered Darren, the regional director. New legal counsel. Janine, the assistant, nearly choked on her coffee. That's him. That's the man from last night. The one they kicked out. A hush fell. The CEO glanced nervously at the agenda, urgent HR review, Le Grand Verre incident. Malik sat at the head of the table. Before we begin, he said, sliding a folder forward, I want to show you what leadership does when silence is mistaken for weakness. Inside the folder, 3 printed screenshots, customer complaints, an email from the waiter bragging about putting someone in their place, and a note from Malik. It read, this is not about a table. It's about my daughter learning what dignity looks like when it's tested. Flashback to the night before. Malik sat quietly in his car, still parked outside the restaurant. His daughter had fallen asleep in the back seat, her half-finished drawing still in her lap. But Malik couldn't drive. Not yet. This wasn't the first time. Years ago, in that very restaurant, he proposed to his late wife. She died from cancer the same year Braxton had hired him, back when he was just an operations analyst no one noticed. He stared at the glowing sign above the entrance. Then his phone buzzed. A text from Janine, his trusted executive assistant, flashed. I warned them not to go public. You want me to move on this? Malik replied with just one word. Tomorrow. Then he drove off, still silent. But in his chest, something had shifted. Because this time, his silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. Back in the boardroom, the tension thickened. Darren tried to recover. Mr. Thompson, surely this doesn't warrant executive. You insulted a man in front of his child, Malik cut in, voice calm but cutting. And you embarrassed this company before it even realized who it was dealing with. I didn't know it was you, the manager blurted out, pale. I thought you were just a father? Malik asked. No one answered. Then, without raising his voice, Malik turned to Janine. Bring in the documents. She entered with a stack of termination notices. One for the waiter. One for the manager. One for Darren. Darren stood up. You don't have the authority to. Malik looked at him, finally showing emotion. Not anger. Just a kind of grief. Check the signature line. Darren flipped the page, and froze. Signed, Malik D. Thompson, Vice President, Operations Division, Braxton Hospitality. He sat back down. Hard. Later that afternoon, Le Grand Verre was unusually quiet. The same hostess who had looked through Malik the night before now stood straight as he entered again, this time, not in cotton, but in command. He wasn't alone. His daughter walked beside him, wearing the same yellow dress. But this time, her eyes weren't confused. They were proud. They walked past the lobby, past stunned staff. A new manager greeted them with a bow, gesturing to the best table in the house. Malik declined. "We won't stay," he said softly. "I just came to show her something." He knelt beside his daughter, eye level. "You asked why I didn't say anything last night?" She nodded. "Because sometimes," he said, touching her heart, "you don't raise your voice. You raise your value." And with that, they turned and walked out, leaving behind silence, paper trails, and the memory of a man who never needed to shout to be heard. Malik Thompson didn't fight back with fists or fury, he responded with presence, dignity, and power rooted in restraint. His story reminds us, silence isn't weakness. Sometimes, it's the voice that echoes the longest. If this racist story moved you, comment below, what would you have done in Malik's place? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to stand up for quiet strength and justice. Downtown Louisville. Marcus, 40, brown-skinned, soft-spoken, had just boarded in his dark blue security uniform, badge gleaming from a day of silent service. He sat beside a young white woman. She shifted away with a dramatic scoff. No one looked. No one spoke. Then came the voice from the front. The driver, red cap, thick arms, no patience, stood up. "Either move to the back, or get off. Now." The bus went silent. Eyes darted. Phones quietly lifted to record. Marcus didn't move. Didn't speak. Just looked forward. His hands on his knees. Calm. A little boy whispered to his mom, "Why is he being mean to the security guy?" But still, no one intervened. Not yet. And just as the driver stepped down the aisle again, a voice from 3 rows back broke the tension. "Sir, if you touch him again, you're violating federal law." All heads turned. Standing now was a man in a crisp military uniform, sharp creases, polished boots, chest full of ribbons. He stepped forward with the steadiness of someone who'd led men into battle. "I said stand down," the soldier repeated. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The driver blinked. "And who the hell are you?" He lifted his ID card. "Lieutenant Darren Cole. United States Army. Just got back last week." A murmur spread. Someone whispered, "He's real. That's a real officer." The woman who had complained earlier suddenly shrank into her seat, clutching her purse. Marcus still hadn't said a word. But his shoulders had lifted slightly, like someone else had finally shared the weight. Lieutenant Cole walked up until he stood between Marcus and the driver. He didn't flinch. "You're done driving this bus today." The driver's lips twitched. "You think you outrank me on this bus?" "No," Cole said, slowly. "But I outrank your fear. And that's what's driving you right now." The tension crackled like static. The driver took a step back, not out of fear, but calculation. His eyes scanned the bus. Phone still recording. Faces watching. Then, with sudden aggression, he reached for Marcus's arm. That's when it happened. Marcus flinched, not from fear, but memory. His hand reflexively shielded his chest, where a faint scar peeked beneath his uniform's collar. From years ago. From a night no one cared to ask about. And in that second, the driver tipped the edge. A passenger near the front, an elderly black woman, stood up shakily. "Don't you dare lay another hand on him," she said, voice trembling but firm. "Not again. Not this time." The driver froze. But someone behind him didn't. Water. A whole bottle. Splashed over Marcus's chest, from the woman who'd started it all. "You people think uniforms make you decent," she hissed. "You're just pretending." The silence was deeper than before. No one laughed. No one moved. Lieutenant Cole didn't yell. He knelt slowly, picked up the drenched security hat that had fallen near Marcus's feet, and placed it gently back on his head. "You don't need to pretend," he said. "You earned it." The bus doors hissed open. 2 officers stepped inside, city police. The driver rushed to them, pointing furiously. That man refused to move. He caused this. The officers turned to Marcus, who sat still, chest soaked, hat slightly tilted. Then they saw Lieutenant Cole. "Afternoon, officers," Cole said, handing over his ID again. "We have multiple video recordings. Passenger was targeted. No laws broken, except maybe one." One officer took the ID, eyebrows raising. "Lieutenant Cole, we know who you are." He turned to Marcus. "Sir, do you want to press charges?" Marcus shook his head. "No. I just want to ride the bus. Like everyone else." The officer turned to the driver. "Step off the vehicle." "What? Are you serious?" "You're suspended, pending investigation. You'll be contacted." As he was led out, the driver glanced back. The bus, silent before, was now filled with quiet stares. Some ashamed. Some relieved. Marcus adjusted his hat. Sat up straighter. Lieutenant Cole gave him a nod. "Mind if I sit here?" Marcus smiled faintly. "It's your city too." The bus rolled forward again. No one spoke for a long time, not out of fear, but reflection. At the next stop, a teenager stood and offered Marcus his seat. "You don't have to stand," he said. Marcus shook his head. "I'm good, son. But thank you." In the back, the woman who threw water stared out the window. She never looked back. Never apologized. But she heard the whisper behind her. "Shame's louder when you're quiet." As Marcus reached his stop, he stood, nodded to the driver now replacing the suspended one, and stepped down. But someone had left something taped to the front exit door. A note scribbled in pen. "Thank you for standing your ground, sir. Some of us were raised better." He paused. Looked back at the bus. At the people watching. Not in judgment, but with something else. Respect. And without a word, he walked off. Tomorrow, the video would go viral. But Marcus wouldn't check. He'd be back at work. Quiet as ever. Badge polished. Shoulders tall. Because some uniforms don't need applause. They just need space. Marcus Ellis didn't raise his voice. He didn't strike back. But his dignity, his silence, and the courage of one stranger changed everything. Racism hides in public silence, until one voice breaks it. Not all battles are loud. But the quiet ones echo forever. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more real stories that matter.